Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Driveclub. So let's take it back to the year of 2014. The PlayStation 4 has been on the market for almost a year, and one of their exclusive racers, which was shown off a year prior in 2013, is still set to release. There's a huge gap at present for a Sony exclusive racer, and with Gran Turismo 6 releasing on the previous gen a year earlier in 2013, that gap is desperately needed to be filled, as the PlayStation 4 has already been around for a year. With Polyphony Digital's next project still in the works and no next gen racing experience available, the stage was set for something new, and eventually Driveclub entered the scene. A PlayStation exclusive racer which finally arrived in October of 2014 after a year and a half of anticipation, after being initially announced as a PS4 release title. Its release was delayed multiple times, but when it finally hit shelves, it was poised to fill that much needed gap in the PlayStation's lineup. Driveclub was mainly promoted as a social racing game. The main emphasis of the title was all about the importance of forming a club with up to 6 of your friends, with the main goal to prove that your club is the most dominant in the world and will take on absolutely anyone. In the end, it did form a whole environment of being a competitive yet collaborative title. The feature set the game apart from pretty much anything else on the market at the time, positioning itself as a dynamic multiplayer experience, and definitely one that felt kind of the first of its kind. No matter where you turned in Driveclub, you would always be in competition with everyone else around the world. In terms of the game itself, it had 3 main game modes, those being World Tour, which acted as the game's campaign, Single Event, which allowed you to customize any event or track combination to your exact liking, and of course Multiplayer. By securing victories and completing in-game challenges, drivers would earn XP and fame to constantly contribute to their club's global ranking. The game constantly rewarded players for their efforts, fostering a sense of community and progression. Throughout its life cycle, Driveclub received extensive support in the form of DLCs and updates. This included both paid and free content, as well as a standalone expansion focusing on motorcycles, and notably as well, a VR version of the game was also released. We also got an entirely different version of the game, which was completely free to play, a PlayStation Plus edition that offered access to every game mode with a limited selection of vehicles, completely free for subscribers. The steady stream of content updates and enhancements significantly transformed Driveclub over time. Over the course of its lifespan, the game evolved into something truly different from its original release. Along the way, it gained a loyal following and solidified itself a place as a PlayStation 4 staple and an icon of the PlayStation 4 era. However, just like everything else through time, eventually Driveclub would have to come to an end. Driveclub's journey eventually came to an end in March of 2020 after nearly 6 years the game's online services were shut down. By the end of the same month, going into April of 2020, it was delisted entirely from the PlayStation Store, though of course physical copies are still available for those looking to relive the experience, but of course it must be offline only. As much as we might hope for a sequel like Driveclub 2, the likelihood of that happening is slim. Despite the game's long life cycle and Sony's support throughout the PS4 era, the developers behind Driveclub, of course Evolution Studios, faced a very cruel fate, and a much different one to Driveclub. Known for developing the WRC series on the PlayStation 2 and of course the acclaimed MotorStorm franchise, Evolution Studios hit a fairly rough patch following Driveclub's launch. In March of 2015, 55 developers were laid off as Sony aimed to shift the focus towards making Driveclub more of a service. Sadly, just a year later in March of 2016, Sony announced the studio's closure. Many of the former team members transitioned to Codemasters Evo, which would eventually be renamed to Codemasters Cheshire, and following EA's acquisition of Codemasters, they would end up merging into Criterion Games. Although Driveclub is now offline and Evolution Studios no longer exists, the game's legacy as a standout title of the PlayStation 4 generation absolutely lives on. Its innovative social features, extensive content updates and undeniable charm continue to be remembered fondly by fans. So let's take a moment to dive back into Driveclub a decade later and celebrate what made it a true icon of its time. As a passionate Driveclub player, I've collected a substantial amount of content over time, and even today the amount of playable material is truly remarkable. Even with the servers offline, there's still so much to enjoy in Driveclub. Considering how affordable the physical copies are in the second-hand market today, the base game's content alone makes it well worth the investment. Unlike many of today's titles, which often feel lacking at launch, Driveclub offers a wealth of content that still stands the test of time, especially compared to modern day standards. Although the single player content is absolutely brimming to the max in terms of events, the first true thing I want to talk about is the massively incredible and diverse car list. It spans multiple classes from the likes of front wheel drive hot hatches, supercars, hypercars and more. There is something for everyone here, and honestly I think you could just get lost for hours trying out every single car available to you in game. Of course what you're seeing here is some mixed in DLC content, so they won't all be available if you were to pick up the game second hand without any DLC. Even then though, the actual car list and car roster itself is just honestly mind-blowing. In terms of some of my personal favourites, absolutely number one has to be the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. I absolutely love this car. We also have the likes of the Jaguar CX-75 concept or prototype. This is available in game and definitely an absolute blast if you want to try something that very rarely features in anything other than what I can think of is the Crew. In terms of some other special vehicles, we have the likes of the Alpine A110-50. And of course, it doesn't just end there in terms of really obscure vehicles. We have the likes of the Peugeot EX1, which is perhaps one of the most bizarre looking vehicles I've ever seen in any racing game. And then finally, to round off the five, we have the Mazzanti Avantra, which I think looks absolutely incredible and something straight out of the Burnout game era. Overall, this is one of the most solid and complete car lists that I've ever seen in any racing game, and even today it still blows my mind 10 years down the line. It's all good having a fantastic car selection, but if your location and track selection doesn't match that, then your racing game will absolutely fall flat. And I'm happy to report that in Driveclub, it's absolutely brimming with different tracks, locations that will take you all around the world, from the likes of India, Chile, Canada, Japan and more. There is something for everyone to enjoy here. Some of my personal highlights when it comes to track and location selections is absolutely Norway during a lightning strike and a snow blizzard. It's absolutely crazy. We also have the luscious forests of India, which is one of the prettiest locations in the game by a long shot, as well as of course the cherry blossoms of Japan. For me, the track selection absolutely top tier. So the car list is top tier, and of course the track selection and location selection is fantastic, but what about the key game modes? Now there was 3 of these at launch. Of course we have the main meat of the game, which is World Tour. This is a career mode that will take you through all of the different car classes, all of the different locations, different types of racing such as drift, sprint, circuit racing, time attack. There's plenty on offer here, and this is where you'll probably spend most of your time. If you have the DLC, there's a lot more on top of that. We also have single event where you can choose between all of the races, time trials, drifts at pretty much every location. highly customizable as well, so you can turn weather, day night cycle on at pretty much all of these locations. They are massively customizable, and honestly, as a single event portion of the game, this is some of the best events possible that you can pretty much create, whether you want to race front wheel drive cars, four wheel drive, etc. And then of course we did finally have multiplayer, which sadly is long gone at this point. All in all, Driveclub is packed with content that can easily offer players hundreds of hours of gameplay thanks to its extensive car and track selection alone. Honestly, well worth checking out even second hand without the DLC on top. If you do have the DLC, you're going to have an even better time. So what good would all of this amazing content be if the gameplay itself was terrible? And I'm happy to report that Driveclub once again absolutely excels in this sector as well. In terms of the game itself, at its core it is absolutely an arcade racer. However, I would go on to say that at times there is so much depth and feeling to the handling that it could almost border on a simcade-like title. I'm happy to report that every single type of vehicle handles the way you'd expect it to. So front wheel drive cars are very easily accessible and handle exactly as a front wheel drive car should. Then we have the likes of rear wheel drive cars. Of course, these are typically much more powerful in game. They're very easy to kick the rear out of, very easy to keep those drifts going, and overall handle exactly as they should. These are high power, very sensitive vehicles. And of course we have all-wheel drive as well, which once again provides a ton of grip, a ton of acceleration, and feel absolutely incredible to throw around almost every location. The game offers a variety of different assists and handling models to cater the game to anyone from a newcomer to a seasoned veteran. You can really go deep with this one. Now in terms of the rest of the game, when it comes to the handling model and the gameplay itself, everything about the different locations and tracks will alter how your car feels. So different road surfaces, dirt on the inside of a corner, crests, jumps, bumps, you name it, including the weather as well. This all changes up exactly how your car feels and how it's going to drive. There's a lot of depth to the overall surfaces and the car itself. So in summary, the gameplay for Driveclub absolutely solid and heavily customizable to your personal preferences. Although Driveclub offers solid gameplay and a wealth of content for players to enjoy, the main target audience was originally social racers, a feature that unfortunately can't be fully appreciated now that the servers are long gone. However, what Driveclub is most fondly remembered for isn't just its gameplay and content. Ask any fan what truly stands out about Driveclub and you'll likely hear about its graphics and sound design. Even in 2024 they remain absolutely stunning. As you can see from the gameplay footage, the fact that Driveclub, a game released in 2014, still boasts some of the best rain effects ever seen in a racing title is remarkable. Even to today's standards, I cannot think of a single racing game that has surpassed the effect and immersion that the Driveclub rain and weather effects have given. Honestly, it's insane. You will have individual beads of rain just kind of going about your windscreen. Your speed affects the actual physics of the rain on there as well. Everything looks incredible. And in terms of the weather itself, it's insanely dynamic. What might start off as a slight bit of rain may get heavier over time and then completely flood the track itself, to the point where conditions become almost undrivable in the best possible way. You also have the likes of blizzards that can make seeing out of the windscreen almost impossible, where your light will only barely break through to be able to show you what's coming up ahead. In terms of the car models, they are absolutely fantastic. They are incredibly high detailed. Everything about the interior, the reflections, the lighting, and also the sound design whilst you're in the cabins is incredibly bassy. With a good speaker setup, this is going to sound absolutely insane. There's a really deep growl to a lot of the vehicles. They all sound pretty spot on. However, the one downside of the actual sound of the game has to be for the outside car camera. So once you are in chase cam, I do think it sounds a little bit overly muffled and just not quite right. But when you are sat in that car with a good speaker setup, blasting through the rain, the sound design and the effects and looks of this game is absolutely beautiful. So with lighting, graphics, weather effects and sound being way ahead of its time and really living up even to a modern day standard, just imagine how mind blown players were back in 2014 when this game launched. It speaks volumes just about how advanced this title truly was for its time, and even today it will continue to impress you. Even after revisiting it, I still find myself in awe just how incredible this game can look at times. Of course, there is a few slight hints that the game may be a little bit older, and a lot of that comes from the background images and the overall draw distance. At times you can start seeing a lot of jaggies, but apart from that, absolutely incredible. In the end, Driveclub is absolutely a game worth trying. Even a decade later, it's as good as it ever was, still holding up and even surpassing modern titles in many aspects. Whether it's the stunning graphics, the wealth of content, or simply the sheer fun factor, even today Driveclub feels like a love letter to cars and racing games, proving that it can stand the test of time. If you haven't played Driveclub in a while or you've never experienced it before, I highly recommend giving it a try. You can easily sink hundreds of hours into this title, and I'm confident you'll enjoy every single minute. Although the servers have been down for over 4 years and Evolution Studios unfortunately are long gone, Driveclub remains one of my all-time favourite console racing games. Who knows, maybe in another decade for the game's 20th anniversary we can revisit it and see if it still holds up then. I just want to give a huge thank you to all of my channel members, a massive thank you for your continued support on this channel. It's just absolutely mind-blowing, honestly, the fact that I'm kind of in this situation to, sit and make these videos and talk about different racing games, do all the Gran Turismo stuff. I do genuinely massively appreciate it. And well, for Driveclub, I just wanted to do something a little bit different to kind of celebrate its whole 10th year anniversary. Honestly, if you haven't tried this game, you really need to do yourself a favour and just check it out. It's dirt cheap and it's absolutely awesome. Anyway, that's it from me. Take care, guys. Peace.